let's get this. Let's get it rolling here.
Excellent. We got one last person to let in from the waiting room,
Okay.
and we will get going. All right. So, thank you everyone for joining us this evening for a webinar. We're going to be speaking with our very own Mart McClellan, who's joining us from Davos, Switzerland, where he's at the WEF. And I've got to be honest, I'm not 100% sure exactly what goes on or what that is. I've heard about it. Mart, can you kind of explain a little bit and tell me some about what it is that you're doing there?
Yeah, for sure. Greetings, everybody. I just said good morning, but it's actually good evening for you guys. But I do have my Schützengarten beer here alongside, so I'll keep my whistle wet while we're talking here over the next half an hour or so. But yeah, so the World Economic Forum was started, gosh, back in the 70s by a gentleman named Klaus Schwab, and he's the name that people look at as either good or bad. If you sort of fall on the globalist side of things, you would consider him a good guy. If you are a non-globalist, which that's sort of the camp that we fall in, at least I fall in, he's not necessarily a great guy. But he's from this neck of the woods, and he started this uh, forum or meeting um, on many different topics: political topics, economic topics, environmental topics, um, and now it's just a mega event of all the big players, political players, power players of the world, whether it's Bill Gates and you name it, they're pretty much here. You see them walking around the streets, and it's a very interesting dynamic. Uh, and the security is over the top. You can only imagine the level of security. Certain areas where the big boys talk are totally locked down. It's like airport security. You have to go through, put your bags through, no liquids. It's just like the airport, machine guns. Um, it's pretty intense. But to answer the, just as mentioned, it's just a forum to collab for people to collaborate from around the world to try to bring new technologies to the fray to, whether you believe in climate change or not, improve climate, improve food hunger. I mean, there's so many people that I've met on crypto, AI, which we'll talk about in a second, as well as just many topics. Certainly, the forum here is also going to be a question and answer that I'll be more than happy to talk about.
Wow, that sounds incredible, like an incredible event to be at, to be able to engage with. You mentioned there that it's kind of the who's who or the kind of the leaders of various industries or topics. So if maybe you could tell us a little bit about how it was that you came to speak and got invited. What is it that you're doing there in Davos?
Yeah, it was quite the honor to be invited to such a power power event for all these people. The interesting about the World Economic Forum, which people who don't really know what's going on in the background, is that it's kind of two meetings in one. The big meeting is what you maybe see on TV in the media, where they're talking with the big blue background, World Economic Forum, blah blah blah, and everybody's doing the panel discussions, talking about things, talking about the issues that the globalists want to address. But then I think even a much bigger piece of the meeting, which is really the part of the meeting that I'm engaged in, is much smaller events. And so a gentleman who I met in Egypt when I was on my expedition there, um, actually the crypto meeting that we did, an expedition looking for things in the pyramids. He and I developed a relationship, and he invited me to Romania last February, Transylvania, actually in the vampire world. And I gave a lecture there on dentistry, the future of dentistry in the metaverse and new technologies in the world of what we do, dentistry. And then he said, "Hey, your information would be very powerful for the people at Davos and the World Economic Forum." And so I received the invite from him. There's a lot of vetting they really sort of get into your business a little bit, to let you go. But the whole meeting itself is, as I said, it's sort of two meetings in one. And there's this one street called the Promenade Street, and it's maybe a couple miles long. And everywhere you look, there are the Qualcomms, the Googles, the Facebooks, all these technology companies, you name it, everybody you can imagine would be there is there. And then all these different countries, like I spoke on behalf of the country of Greece, but then Sweden and India, and they're all there. And so what happens is each of those particular companies and or countries will have events within their own hotel or restaurant or whatever it may be. And it's almost like a dental meeting where you sign up for, what course you want to go with. Do you want to learn about crypto? Do you want to learn about AI? Do you want to learn about the climate? Do you want to learn about government affairs? Do you want to talk about world health? Do you want to talk about food regenerative farming and food hunger in the world? And it's really, you sort of pick and choose where you want to go. But it's such a secure place. You have to have a special badge to actually participate. So you just can't show up in Davos and go to these meetings. Yeah, as I said, everybody there has been vetted pretty much, and you have to show your badge in order to get in all these different meetings. And that's sort of how I got that, the part of the equation that I was able to speak at. I was in the Greek House given a lecture on digital currencies and the future of money, and how it relates to healthcare around the world, as well as in the United States, of course. So it's super cool when you're there. You see people from all walks of life, and it's very, 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 very exciting.
That sounds incredible. Sounds like a great opportunity to learn about some other topics as well. Um, were you able to sit in on some of the other presentations and get a taste of some of them?
Yeah, I did. I really, one of my good friends, he's actually a leading expert that's been talking about regenerative farming. He's actually out of Colorado, and he and I are in a mastermind group, and that's how I met him. And he actually won an award. He won an award from the Prince of Monaco on the newest technologies for solving the hunger problem around the world. And so what he does, he builds, and his name of his company is called Backyard Farming Supply. He builds farms in the back, in the back of your house. And he has like a quarter of an acre of land behind his house. And within like a little plot of maybe 20 by 20 of that quarter acre, he grows these tomatoes, like 80 different varieties of tomatoes. And he grew like 2,000 pounds of tomatoes. And so he's got all these super cool automated methods to grow all different types of fruits and vegetables to sustain yourself. In the case of world, if you can't get food at the store, you can sort of just manage it all yourself. That was a super cool thing. And he actually gave me some information, some education modules. So if anybody on this call would like to maybe get more information, I think he's giving out some free educational things on regenerative farming. I'm all in on that. We have a cabin in Wisconsin that we're going to definitely, we've been, even before, and I'm talking to Tate, we're definitely going to be doing some of that type of work in the future. I went to some really cool crypto conferences. I don't know if you guys remember Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch. He was Trump's press secretary for about 10 days, I think. and he got fired for, I think he got shooting off his mouth, I guess. But he's a super nice guy. And he's part of a group that was very involved in crypto. And they had the leader of Coinbase come and Circle, which is, he runs USDC, which is the stable coin for that. It's one of the biggest stable coins, if not the biggest stable coin in the world. And they gave some incredible insight into the future of that space and stable coins. A guy named David Rubenstein, to meet him. He was he's part of the Carlyle Group, which is a big hedge fund company, but he's also been a consultant he's a direct consultant with Jimmy Carter and George Bush Senior and many others. And I met a lot of really cool people in the crypto space. The CFO of Hedera Hashgraph, which is another crypto out there, and drone technology. That was a really neat one. And yeah, so I could go on and on about all the people. There's actually one really cool. This is amazing. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Hold this up. Can you see that? That's like it's a wristband. It says Regenesis on it. Can you see that or not really?
It's coming through a little bit.
Yeah, this guy won Man of the Year, but it fits on your wrist and it connects to your phone on an app. And they do quantum configuration of the molecules, and so they can change the configuration of the molecule to cure many different diseases. And they actually cured malaria within a week. That's why he won this big award, because malaria is a huge part of the problem around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he showed that if you wore this little badge or wristband, they were able to cure malaria very quickly. And they've got and that's doing things with cancer apparently, and high blood pressure, you name it, balance. And it was a really fascinating discussion, and cool technology that he shared with us. So
Sounds
yeah.
incredible. It turns out Bill Gates was going about malaria the wrong way the whole time.
Well, right. I mean, and so that's what he was saying. He goes, Bill Gates couldn't get it figured out. We got it done. And signed, sealed, delivered. So, that is world changing. So that's some of the really good stuff that comes from this type of meeting. One thing that I'm thoroughly amazed at is that this is the biggest networking event I've ever seen in my life. I mean, everybody you meet, they say, "What do you do? How can I help you?" It's just incredible. Business cards are flying all over the place, or WhatsApp QR codes, and you're exchanging information left and right. And whether you're looking to raise money through a venture capital or private equity standpoint, or just try to get your company off the ground, you just sort of go to one of these hotels or houses, and people are there to sort of engage you and sort of bring whatever your product is to market. It's I've never been in that type of meeting, because a lot of times meeting people, it's like, what are you trying to sell me? What are you trying to pitch me? Blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah. It's the opposite. Like, no, we want to try to help you. And for me, I'm not really there for the purpose of raising money. I'm there to sort of provide information on what we know in digital currencies and portfolio constructions and things like this. But regardless, it's really neat to see people from all over the world trying to help each other.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like an amazing event to be able to take part in and be at. So, I'm curious about your experience speaking and kind of being involved in a group like that. What was it like? You kind of did you get up on stage? Was it more of an intimate setting? What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was a pretty, maybe a little intimidating, of course. There's a lot of people there, but have a lot of information on what I know pretty well. But these guys are uber smart in some of the weeds of these technologies. But yeah, it was a introductory type of discussion on stage, and then it was as a panel discussion. I was on the panel discussion with two other people, and they sort of gave their level of expertise, and it was a sort of a back and forth, just sort of how they do, like when you see on TV, when you'll see the World Economic Forum, there'll be multiple people sitting in chairs and moderator asking you questions.
Gotcha. What uh what topics would you say were one, two, and three at the top of the list for the event?
Well, the number one information, or the technology that's hot up and down this promenade, is AI. I mean, it is big. Everywhere you look, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. And then probably um, crypto would be number two. Crypto topic last year, and AI was coming to be, more uh, not important, but just more. How would I say? Um, Not more important. It's just becoming more, how would I say, informational for now. But and then probably the third one would be um, probably robotics. There's a lot on robotics, And
Mhm.
that's probably the next one. It's interesting, people say the World Economic Forum is about climate change and all these things, and I really did, maybe I'm just not wasn't exposing myself to it. I've really not really seen much of that at all. But as I said, the meeting is kind of split up into two. It's like where the Klaus Schwab, John Kerry's, Bill Gates, and all those people, they're kind of over there in the secure area, and then our area was a little bit different. So that's just sort of, but it's funny how the media sort of talks about it, because they really don't talk about it in that light. They always talk about it just as the one globalist agenda, but it's really much different than that.
Mhm. Makes you wonder which side they might take on that debate.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I think there
so
may be a little bias there. What do you think?
maybe just a smidge of it. So what are your thoughts for the future then? Where do you think this is going in 2024?
Well, one of the big topics was, how does the ethical nature of artificial intelligence gets engaged in our society? People are obviously really, really concerned about, are we going to be Skynet? Is AI going to take over the world? All these things, and people are honestly very. It's like anything, any technology. People take advantage of it and create hacks, whether it's crypto or AI or just the internet. And so the those are sort of the topic, and actually that goes with crypto as well with the regulations. But the good news is, hopefully a lot of people on this call are aware that the SEC last week passed the Bitcoin ETF, which is like tremendously good news for the crypto world. United States has always been pushing that away and denying that application, but BlackRock and 10 other companies got that pushed through. So obviously, everybody here in Davos is very excited about that, because there was always sort of an understanding that there need to be some regulation to this space for people to engage it somewhat. There's a fine line of having too much regulation. So crypto is obviously a very non-regulation type of technology, but
Mhm.
the people who have not sort of engaged crypto to this point, the fear, uncertainty, down the FUD of life, or the fear of missing out, the FOMO, this sort of enables people to get engaged with crypto without necessarily having to go through all the nuances of investing through Coinbase with a cold wallet and a hot wallet and all the things, all the passphrases and the keys and custody and things like this. And so with the Bitcoin ETF, now you can even work with us now, because now we offer those products to all of our clients. So if they want to say, hey, I don't want to deal with all those things with crypto, but I want Bitcoin part of my portfolio, then we can help you, assist you. Sort of, it's like opening up a brokerage account and say, here we go. And you can say, hey, I want to invest X amount into Bitcoin, and away you go. And that gets you involved. And then eventually the Ethereum ETF will be coming on board. We're talking about a Solana ETF. So all these different cryptocurrencies will be tokenized in the future. I met one lady, really, she's the CFO of Hedera, I mentioned previously, super nice lady from Mexico. She made the comment, which is amazing. It just blew me away. She goes, within 5 years, 47% of all corporations will have digital currency as a part of their company in some capacity.
Mhm.
That is incredible, because you think about just even Bitcoin today, and many people on this call have heard this. There's only 21 million total Bitcoin out there. 19 and a half plus have been mined to date. And they say 10 to 20% of those maybe have been lost forever, never to be found. A million of those Satoshi uh, owns. And so the supply, the available supply is only about 30%, because 70% of the people have held Bitcoin for over a year, and over like 60% have held it for over 3 years. And so when all these funds start flowing into the marketplace of these ETFs, and this corporations engaging crypto, there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin that can be dispersed or sold in order for them to sort of engage the services, because it's a beautiful thing to have an inflation protected current cryptocurrency like Bitcoin. But so that is super, super duper exciting. And what was another point I was going to make on the crypto? Oh, and then another, and you've heard us say too that the research supports that having at least 2.5% of your portfolio in crypto, upwards up to 5%, greatly enhances the rate of return at the same standard deviation. So, which means there's no additional risk to have those assets within your portfolio, but you get more bang for your buck. So we're going to see a lot of movement in the crypto space, and we're obviously very, very excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know that
that's one of the things we were talking about too, is that because many of you know, we were like one of the first, if not the first healthcare firm to offer crypto to the folks we work with, but now the onboarding process is going to be a whole lot easier with the Bitcoin ETF.
absolutely, which bringing down that hurdle of accessibility, only enhances it that much more. It also kind of brings to mind back when gold ETFs were introduced. Is that something that you've seen before? Have you seen that chart? Or
Yeah, yeah,
price of gold just as soon as it becomes accessible, people want to own that asset.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
Bitcoin is the digital gold.
yeah, yeah.
We want to go ahead and open it up for question and answer time. So if you guys in the audience have a question that you would like to ask, if you could either shoot it in the chat and we'll make sure that it gets asked to Mart, or you can raise your hand and we'll call on you and have you unmute and you can ask your question or have your chat with Mart here while we've got him on the line.
Mart,
Yeah,
I just like to say it's quite an honor for you to be invited to go and be vetted. It's one of the things I've read about for years and years and never really known or heard your side of it, what you just explained. So I think that's pretty neat. A lot more going on there than what the media allows us to be aware of.
no, I appreciate that, Doug. It's like, yeah, I'll be honest with you. When, not that I'm not always honest with you, but um, when I was invited to speak, I was obviously very honored and excited. But the same token, you kind of say, "Oh, wow!" It's like I've heard about that thing. I'm not quite sure I want to participate and be part of that. But after talking to some other friends who also uh, attended that previous years, they sort of went through the same discussion that I just had with you, in that it's really not totally about the globalist agenda. It's about really trying to bringing the people together to share their technologies to get it to the marketplace faster and providing the resources to do that. One of the ladies I met there, she's actually part of one of the crypto companies that we've invested in, and maybe some of the people on this call have invested in Crown Sterling. But she was the whistleblower a number of years ago in this one company who was providing data services for Facebook during the elections. And she said that they're censoring people and they are not letting everybody say what they want to say, and because Facebook was sort of presenting their own agenda, and she called them out. And so she's part of this investment company on data sovereignty. How do we protect our personal data? Because anytime you are on, this is sort of a global comment for everybody here too, is that if you have any service online, whether it's WhatsApp, social media, Facebook, Google, Gmail, if any of it, if you get it for free, you're the product. Okay. And so they use your data extensively for all the things, marketing and things like this, to create more money for themselves. Now that's all fine and dandy because it is in the terms and conditions and all the fine print that you read. But these individuals are saying, no, our data is the most valuable asset in the world and we should protect it. And so this one lady who I met, and we talked quite a while on it, she's very engaged with these cryptocurrencies to encrypt your data. So they can, if you want to have them use your data, they have to pay you to use the data, which is going to be super cool because they feel from a worldwide standpoint, the majority of the world is unbanked. Most people don't have a bank account. They have their phone, but they don't have a bank account. Africa, Asia, South America. So they feel that'd be really powerful if, these people could set up have their cryptocurrency and they could sell their data to Facebook or Google, whoever. They can make a couple bucks a month. That makes a big difference in the world. And so she's very engaged that. But another cool project that she has, she was an archaeologist before she went off to be an attorney and whistleblower and all these other things. And she has created, so for those of you guys know Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto was the creator, the anonymous creator of Bitcoin. Well, she started this new company called Chateau like a castle. And so she's using resources to create, because what happens with these castles around the world, they're degrading. You'll never make another castle because they're hundreds of years old, right? And there's a lot of upkeep and other things to sort of make sure they don't go away for the world. So she's trying to do like a natural park or national park type of thing where people can go there, almost have like a VRBO or Airbnb at a castle. And so she's renovating these castles all around the world and and maintain them for the enjoyment of the people of the planet, which I think is super cool. I think that's a cool thing. But she's, Satoshi is, there's kind of a crypto spin on that as well. Any other questions I can answer for you guys?
Let's see here. We've got a couple in the chat coming up. I can read to you. We got Dan Anesco said, thanks for all the info, Mart. Nice to know we have an insider at Davos. That is good to know.
Well, that's another
Excellent.
thing too. People are like, if people have an agenda, you want to feel like there's people going to stand up for what they believe in as well, and kind of fight the good fight, whether it's the right fight or the wrong fight. If you just let things go along, then not let people know where you're coming from, then you sort of have to you become a sheeple, right? You just have to follow along in line and be lemmings jumping off the cliff at times. And so the more mouthpieces we get out there to share the message of decentralization and Bitcoin's kind of the money of the people, the better off our world will be.
We got another question in the chat here. Based on topics around crypto at the event, what was the overall use case discussed? Bitcoin was digital gold, and then NFTs was, what would you guess would be next?
Yeah, it's interesting. There wasn't a whole lot of NFT talk. Although my watch right here, I don't know if you can see my watch. That's actually an NFT, which is a super cool thing. Some of the big topic points, because there's a lot of people, BlackRock and Vanguard and these things, was the DeFi. DeFi is going to be a big piece of the equation and the engagement of the crypto, whether it's Ethereum type cryptos or others on Solana or whatever. They're feeling that decentralized finance and Wall Street is going to be changed significantly once more adoption occurs with these technologies.
I can throw in there just coincidentally, I was reading about the 11 new ETF crypto funds and looking at fees for all of them. So I happened to open my first ETF, put some money into my first ETF this morning.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting. Capitalism was at work on those products because the fees came out kind of higher. Next thing you know, they're kind of scratching and who's going to be the lowest fee and whatever it's going to be. And it's the fee itself is like anything, and that's one reason why Wall Street wants to get involved, of course, because they make their money on fees, and which is fine. You just have to understand, like anything, you're not going to be able to avoid that. You just want to try to keep them as low as possible. And really, with this type of technology, those fees are actually pretty reasonable. Other than GBTC, I think they're still up around 1.5%, 1.4%.
Mhm.
All the other ones are probably between 0.2 and 0.5
Yeah.
basis points or percent. So, and that's very reasonable for a high level technology product. I mean, many times you have, emerging market ETFs or international ETFs or mutual funds. Those types of funds tend to have higher fees anyway, compared to like an index fund, which is like next to nothing. So, these things will
Yeah.
do have fees, but at the same token, if it enables people to onboard themselves into the space without, being worried about the custody and losing things, that's a huge value.
What are your thoughts on a couple custodians have come out and said that they're not going to allow their clients to hold these Bitcoin ETFs on their platform? Do you think that we're going to see more people moving in that direction, or do you think maybe they're going to realize that that's probably not the best decision for their clients?
Yeah, I call that I call the people who are avoiding the Bitcoin ETF, which would be Vanguard for one. Vanguard's
Hmm.
the second biggest player in the space, in the mutual fund ETF space. Um, I call it a Bud Light moment. I think I think they're going to be
Good name for
screwing.
them.
They're going to screw themselves. They're going to. I've
Yeah.
already seen many people online start pulling their money out of Vanguard to move it to other places because they want to have Bitcoin
Yeah.
as a piece of that equation. But one of the problems, and this is one of the talking points I gave in my panel discussion, was that the custody, the beautiful thing about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and all the other ones, is the custody is actually the good part about it, because it is you as the human being that has fully control of that asset. Nobody can take it away from you. It is yours, and it's not able to be confiscated. Now, the problem with things such as Bitcoin ETFs, those all those ETFs are going to be custodied pretty much on Coinbase. Coinbase is the custodian for all these ETFs. If the SEC gets a little bit worried about, where things are going, could they potentially confiscate those ETFs? They could. Not say they're going to, but that power is there because it's being custodied. You don't have full custody of that asset. So that's, kind of the whole thing is a little bit, the Bitcoin maximalists are not really excited about the ETF because of the custody issue, but I think it's a good thing. I think the ETFs are a really, really good thing.
So I know that prior to the approval, there was this stat that people used to cite oftentimes. Now that it's been approved, what does that bring BlackRock's ETF approval record to? Isn't that aren't they still like 570 something to one?
Your last one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they're the gold standard for getting that push for sure. And that's one reason why that's an interesting topic there, Seth, too, because that they showed that they were going to sort of put that application in maybe in the fall. And once that application went in, the industry, financial institution says, "Oh, okay, if BlackRock is getting engaged, the chances of an ETF being passed are very, very high." And of course, it came to fruition. But the interesting thing about that is that my initial thought is that when Bitcoin they were going to announce on January 10th, which they did, but some of you remember there was a hack on January 9th. Somebody hacked into it and said the Bitcoin ETF was passed, and it popped Bitcoin up, but then that was a false announcement. But the interesting thing was, I thought when the ETF passed, that you'd see a little more of a jump in the price of Bitcoin, maybe up over 50,000, but that didn't really happen. So my thoughts are is that ETF price of Bitcoin is already baked in. But the interesting thing is that since the Ethereum ETF is next, it's really Ethereum that did really well on the Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah.
You're like, that really popped up high because I think now it's anticipation of the next one. So now they're kind of baking in the price of Ethereum as the next one that come on board. And so I think you're going to see Ethereum continue to sort of move itself up in price, because that will come probably here sometime in the spring, I'm guessing.
I think that's an interesting observation. Ethereum definitely has jumped up here over the past few weeks. It'll be interesting to watch and see where it goes as these conversations continue. Let me see if we have any other questions in the chat. If anybody has a question they would like to ask Mart, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. I don't see anything else in the chat. Mart, while we're waiting to see if someone has a question, what's the food like over there? I'm very curious. I've never been.
I had a killer Zurich style veal last night, and my wife had some calf liver. Lindsay had some calf livers, which were fantastic. But it's funny, in this part of Switzerland, it's very close to Italy. In San Moritz, we're really close to San Moritz, so there's a lot of pizza. Like, I'm like, I really don't need to have any pizza. I've got good pizza in Chicago. I love Chicago style pizza. So we're trying to avoid pizza places.
There you go.
But
Gotta
there's a
stay
lot of
true to
schnitzel.
Chicago.
Yeah, there's a lot of
The one
schnitzel.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of pork products, noodles, but the food is good and the wine's fantastic.
Excellent. Well, I don't see any additional questions in the chat. If nobody has any other questions, we can wrap up here pretty quick. Mart, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything to leave our guests with from Davos?
No, I think we covered almost all those bases. I'm coming back on Saturday, so looking forward to get back to the States. And not feel like you're being watched everywhere. There are cameras everywhere in Davos. I mean, you can run, but you can't hide. But it's going to be good to be back. I'm excited for 2024. I think the Fed's talking about reducing interest rates 3 times. That's typically good for the market, as well as it's an election year, which is typically good for the market. So we'll see where that goes. But I'm excited from a financial standpoint for all the folks we work with that it's going to be awesome. And when we get back, or feel free to pop me any emails or texts, and we look forward to our next discussions. And I get to go to bed now.
That's right. We're going to make sure that you can get some sleep before.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got a busy day tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm
thank
meeting
you
with
very
the African.
much.
Actually, one closing. I meet with the African Coalition tomorrow. We're trying to do some cool stuff with Africa and with water and food as well as crypto. So that will be an interesting talking point with that group. Some of you guys know I did mission projects to Kenya and other places around the world. So I'm very excited about work with the people of the countries of Africa if it has the opportunity. So that'll be fun tomorrow, or actually not tomorrow, today for me.
Yeah, today for you.
Thursday.
That's right.
So, all right, guys. Oh, yeah, you got one, Doug?
I think we got one
Yeah.
quick. Yeah.
Is Friday the last day of the conference?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm leaving here Friday to catch my airport in Zurich on Saturday. So we're leaving here Friday. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for setting some time aside for us, especially in the middle of the night, the early hours of the morning. We appreciate you joining us live from Davos. Yeah.
Just as a final note, the Davos, I mean, I'm not staying in Davos per se just because it's so darn expensive. The rooms are going for like $8,000 a night in some spots.
Wow. Man,
it's insane.
Man,
yeah, so
I'm gonna open up a Davos exclusive hotel chain.
Yeah, so we train it in every day. We're in a beautiful hotel. It's fantastic, but yeah, it's the place it's pricey. Yeah, so
yeah. Well, thanks again. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you think of anything after we log off, you can email me or Mart. You should have our contact information. It'll be at the bottom of any email that you received referencing this evening's event. So thank you everyone again. We're going to go ahead and log off. Mart, I hope that you get some sleep and you have an awesome day tomorrow.
all right, guys. Bye-bye now.